Union Community Care is a community health center, which means we provide physical health care, dental care, social services, and behavioral health to everyone in the community. It's offered at low price or no price, depending on the individual, and it's fantastic care. We've been doing it for over 50 years, and we're so pleased to be able to serve the community. So personally, I serve as the leader of a healthcare organization that serves the most vulnerable. We serve sick people every day. So I was the leader at the helm during a time when there were more questions than answers, when we couldn't get the equipment that we needed to keep our staff safe, when it was a challenge, when the prices were jacked up 200%, and worrying every day that the decisions we made were truly life and death decisions. So my team and I, we committed to doing the right things in the very beginning, and it started with keeping our staff and our patients safe. But in the midst of doing that as my job, I also had to deal with it through my family. And, in May of last year, my nephew, his name is Michael, he's 27, he got COVID, and he died at 27 years old. So this is not just an exercise, it's not just an experience, that I worked through, but it's an experience that I lived through. And Michael was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful young man in the prime of his life. And there is no reason that he should be dead today. So this disease does not discriminate. And so I think that's why it's so important for us to understand that we actually have a tool now to prevent future deaths, to prevent getting seriously ill from COVID. And that tool is a vaccine. So, the partnership between Patients Are Waiting and Union Community Care has been in existence before the pandemic. We are aligned in our mission, which is to grow more representation among healthcare providers of people of color, and to ensure that they are in the pipeline and supported to be able to go and change the world as doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals in hospitals and community health centers like Union Community Care. When it comes to the vaccination effort, we knew that we could do this together. We could be stronger together than either of us could be alone. So we were able to support Patients Are Waiting to provide these pop-up vaccination clinics in the community. So we are going to community, not expecting them to come to us. And we are providing vaccines by folks that they know, folks that they trust, in places that they trust. We're making it fun for families to come out and get vaccinated. It's not a scary thing. We want to make sure folks don't feel like it's a scary thing. And it is really part of ensuring that our communities stay strong and that they stay healthy. Well, the reasoning behind it is because we have a shared purpose. So when you have a shared purpose, it is really, it's not a question, it's a how can we make it happen? And it's funny, but Dr. Hamblin and I have never met in person. We talked many times via phone and via remote, but because of the pandemic, we just couldn't connect in person. But really what we're trying to do is the same. So it was a non-issue. As soon as we were in a position that we had resources available, we reached out to them. We were able to execute a contract for these services right away. And by not providing so much red tape that it makes it impossible for a small nonprofit to participate, we were able to have them, be able to start this work really quickly, and they've done just a fabulous job. The mission for more equity is part of what's core to us, and it's core to them, so we're naturally aligned. When you look at who has gotten COVID, communities of color have gotten COVID more, they have been infected more, and that has to do a lot with the type of work that we do. So not all of us have jobs where we get to sit at home in our pajamas and work and get paid. A lot of us have jobs, we have to get out in the public. We work in jobs where we're interacting with people, therefore we are more likely to be exposed, and that's exactly what happened. So I would just share that communities of color, we have been more negatively impacted, but we're strong. We have been strong for hundreds and thousands of years, and we will get through this. We will come on the other side. A lot of us will have broken hearts, but we will get through this. We will get through this. And I think do what you can, get vaccinated, make sure that you get the people that you love vaccinated, that you encourage your friends, that you get good information. And if you're not sure where to get information, come to Union Community Care. We have doctors, nurse practitioners, providers with decades of experience, and they live here in the Lancaster community. You can trust what they say. So come and see us if you have questions about the vaccine, and be part of this community as we move forward, because we will all move forward, and we'll do it together, and we'll be stronger.
Good morning. Wake up, guys. It's TCP in the morning.
Wake up!
Wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Wake up. Wake up.
Wake up!
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up. It's TCP in the morning.
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 It's TCP in the morning. It's TCP in the morning.
TCP in the morning.
It's 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 TCP in the morning.
Good morning. Wake up, y'all. It's TCP in the morning with the morning tea.
Sing the song here in a minute.
TCP in the morning.
Say, you know,
Y'all up.
wake up,
Hello.
and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, like
You know, nothing wrong with that.
you need that
Right,
every day.
right, folks. We want to welcome you. Good morning. Hello. How you doing?
Hey,
Don't be rude. Say it back.
come on. With your chest per se.
Right. You know, this is TCP in the morning NPR version.
A different feel.
Right. Just listen to us as we speak softly to you, like all things considered.
We don't want anyone to feel threatened this morning.
Right. You know, those excitable guys in the morning. You know, we're taking another approach.
We're gonna rewind.
Yes.
And we're gonna do this thing
Yes.
this way
Yes.
for Mother Russia.
For Mother Russia. Australia! Let's go! Folks, want to thank you for joining us. Wake your ass up! Hey!
Hey!
Let's give it to him, man. Hey,
Welcome to the show! Hey!
Let's get this thing
Well.
started. Hey!
Well.
Good morning, good evening.
Well,
It is the best thing that you can do, the best thing that you can have in your cup. TCP in the morning. Want to welcome you on this lovely Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the year, the first Tide Tuesday of the year. You see what we're doing. Folks, have a jam-packed show for you. But before we get to that, what up, Sarge?
listen, all I want to say is welcome to the world famous.
Famous.
Powered by testosterone, estrogen. No egos. But we're about to give it to you raw,
Yeah.
uncut, and hardcore.
Yeah, man.
All that.
All
Listen,
of it.
how y'all doing? Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Didn't get no snow yesterday. Made me a little mad. Hurt my heart just looking.
Oh, man.
You know, I said all the signs too. I was like, it's quiet. It's real cold. It's a calm in there. It's going to snow.
It did in Maryland.
You know what it did? It said, hey, Sarge,
Okay,
you are not a weatherman.
Lady L, what up?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy first Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, listen, show us some love and share the stream. If you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on IG, go on ahead and watch the show with some friends. We got a fantabulous show for you.
Woo,
And
woo.
listen, we got some Black Girl Magic coming up in the studio today. Oh, I'm so excited. Can't wait. We're going to talk about PA, the state, the day for racial healing. Is your state doing that? What is your state doing to talk about racial healing? Listen, we got some stuff in store for you. Don't forget, we are always supporting our Black Lady Doctors. Yes, the phenomenal women over at Patients Are Waiting. Guess what? It's going down. Health Equity Music Festival. We're talking about boosters. We're talking vaccinations. And we're talking about coming together as a community to fight the spread of COVID-19 here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So again, shout out to our Black Lady Doctors. We hope to see you this Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. at Christmas Addicts Community Center. Over to the desk.
Over to the desk, folks. My mama calls me Marquise Lupton.
Oh!
You can call me DJ Quiet Storm.
DJ Quiet Storm.
One of 3 hosts, one of 4 personalities on this thing we call TCP in the morning, the best thing that you can have in your cup. Good morning, folks. Don't be rude. Say it back. We do this thing called Call and Response. If you went to church, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've never been to church, well, keep up. Folks, let's not forget about our man behind the mirror. I'm talking to the man in the mirror. Oh, yeah. DJ Double O.
Do not look behind the curtain. The man behind the curtain is doing nothing. Anyway, good morning. Glad to be here as always with the morning team. I'm looking for y'all in the comments. I see a couple names in there that didn't say hello. I'm going to call y'all out right now. Ashley's in here, didn't say hello.
Oh.
In here, didn't say hello.
Oh.
James, you up in here, didn't say hello. What's up? Like, come on.
Oh, where you at? Who you with?
I told y'all I was going to start calling y'all out, and it's that time. It's a new year, new energy.
Hey.
You know what? Calm it down. Let's get these people the news, man.
Yeah, what up, man? What up?
Like we said, we got a jam-packed show for you today. We're talking about beer, pizza, and 10 other things that will be increasing in price. So for all you Super Bowl folks that like to celebrate the Super Bowl, start saving your coin now. Shout out to IG and the folks listening on IG.
Funny story, I take the Browns to the Super Bowl every morning. Hey, yo!
There it is.
Those wings. Damn.
Also, Airbnb starts a new initiative to combat racial discrimination, and the FDA authorizes COVID vaccine boosters for 12 to 15-year-olds. So we'll be getting into that, and then we have our guest coming in today. I like to call her Dr. Bishop. Y'all can call her Dr. Bishop as well. But coming in, we got Dr. Bishop Venus Ricks. She is a representative from the governor's office to talk to us about diversity, equity, inclusion, and what that means for her office and what she is bringing to the Commonwealth, working alongside folks like Tom Wolf and others. So that should be interesting as well. So, folks, to the left, to the right, to the front, and the back, want to say good morning to you all. Who we got listening today?
We got a lot of comments. Sabrina, good morning.
Good morning.
Doc, good morning. Neville, good morning. What up,
Good morning, man.
Bernardo, good morning. Angela, good morning. Rebecca, good morning. Jessica, Lisa says, good morning. Taking kids. I can't read it.
Taking minions to school.
Taking minions to school. Good morning, Lisa. Thank you. Keep taking them kids to school, mama. Go ahead, girl. Who else? Leanna. Good morning. Melonia? Did I say it right? Melonia. I think I said it right. I know I said it right. Take a stand. Melonia, good morning. Jessica, what up? Good morning, though. Yeah, we know Dr. Oz is doing some funky stuff. James, what up? Let's go. Jessica says we love Venus Ricks.
Oh,
and
yes,
we got Orlandra and Robin tuning in live on IG right now. Good morning, guys.
What up, y'all?
Good morning.
Thank y'all for
What's going
watching.
on, y'all? Let us know where you're listening from, who you're listening with, and how you're listening.
Hey, are you in Lancaster County? I love seeing when people are from different parts of the globe.
Right.
Oh,
You know, on this
Melanie.
floating spaceship here we call Earth. I like to see where you're watching from. So let us know. Are you here in Lancaster County with us, or are you in another part of the Commonwealth? Drop it down in the comments and let us know where you're watching from.
Dig it. And Melanie says, no, it's Melanie, just spelled differently. Well, Good morning to you. Glad you could join us
Hey,
this
Melanie.
morning on
Nice
TCP in the morning. I think
Is it about that?
it might be that time.
Oh, soak it. I say it.
For those that who have just joined us, this is one of my favorite parts of the show, where we get you, the viewer, prepared to receive the news. It's kind of like church, you know. You gotta
Pray part before the service.
It woke me up this morning. Started me on my way. Oh,
hey,
there it is.
that time. Wait,
Bust
sing
it.
it. Hey, oh,
Hey,
get it.
Bop. Let's low bop for some of y'all. Here we go.
Hey,
Time to get the people, yeah.
Get the people what they want.
And that's the news.
With a shimmy.
Thanks for stopping by. Our first story for today, folks. Beer, pizza, turnpike,
Oh, no.
groceries. Things are going to be a little bit more expensive in 2022 as we fight this thing called inflation, as we continue to navigate this thing we call COVID-19. Everything is more expensive these days. This comes from the Associated Press. Everything is more expensive these days. Prices for essentials such as medical care, rent, gas, cars, and groceries have sharply surged. In fact, prices in 2021 rose at the fastest pace in 40 years. Unfortunately, there is little relief as 22 arrives. Strong consumer demand, coupled with supply chain disruptions and rising Omicron infection rates, almost guarantee high inflation will continue. Here are some goods and services you should anticipate paying more for in the new year. One that we already talked about already is turnpike tolls. This isn't just for Pennsylvania. This is going to be a nationwide thing. According to the Turnpike Commission, the most common toll for a passenger vehicle will be $1.06 to $1.70. And for Easy Pass passers, $3.90 to $4.10 for toll by plate customers. Also, hotel rates. Those dang nabbit hotel rates are going to go up. As the travel industry rebounds, hotel rates are going to climb. Some are expecting rates to climb by 13%. Craft beer. Get ready to pay more for craft beer. The reason? A shortage of aluminum cans. How about that? Nationally, some craft brewers have already said they will have no choice but to raise prices. Clothing. Anticipate selling out Anticipate shelling out more for your good looks. In November, online clothing hit a record 3.5% over the year high. Even as prices fell to 2% during the holiday sales. Experts say the price hikes are related to a combination of factors, including supply chain shortage and rising demand as people return to more in-person events and gatherings. Comcast. Surprise, surprise.
Not Comcast.
For many customers, Comcast TV prices are going up. A spokesperson told the Philadelphia Inquirer that people will see a 3% rise in Comcast. Mainly prices of some television packages, broadcast television, regional sports, and cable boxes and remotes. Those prices are going up as well because they can.
I'm just over here like, Why does nothing? Comcast wasn't affected at all by the pandemic. If nothing else, they got more
They
subscriptions.
got more.
And
People
more
double
money.
down.
Right? What do we? Yeah, that's predatory.
Yeah.
Everybody's raising prices. Why not us?
Exactly.
It's terrible.
Same thing for rent. Experts say the rental market is actually stronger than the housing market nationwide, but in 2022, folks that rent could see a increase in the rent of 7.1%. In November, rent prices were up 3% compared with the same time in 2020, mostly due to soaring home prices and supply chain issues limiting construction. Some more things. Dollar Tree, that will be going up. It's even going to cost more to shop at discount stores like the Dollar Tree, which have held the price of items sold to $1 for 35 years. Announced it will raise most prices by 25 cents. Groceries, unfortunately, groceries are not about to come down. The Wall Street Journal said that hikes range from 2% to 20% and target all sections of the grocery store, even produce, such as celery and potatoes, are expected to cost more. Coffee, Medicare Part B, as well, to close out the list of things that will be increasing in price. And finally, folks, before I give it to the team for their commentary, and finally, Little Caesars as well, will increase the price of its hot and ready. Is it good? They don't care.
It's good enough.
They just say that it's hot and ready. That's what they are. Little Caesar, it's $5. Pizza will now be $5.55. It's the first price increase that the company has made in the last 25 years. So, folks, these are all the things that are going up in price. Again, that is tolls, hotels, craft beer, clothing, Comcast, rent, Dollar Tree, groceries, coffee, Medicare Part B, and hot and ready pizzas. Lady L.
So something that is going up in price that sadly I didn't hear you talk about are feminine care products.
Which should be free. Sorry, should be free.
I agree. I'm a dad.
Hashtag girl dad.
Feminine care products are going up, and period poverty is a thing. And so thinking about the cost of everything going up, I have a story for you all. I literally went to the grocery store, because we still kind of do our pandemic shopping, right? So still one person goes to the grocery store and everything like that, still trying to play it safe. And I saw the price of bacon pretty much double, and literally the same price of bacon calls for one box of feminine care products. And that's difficult, right? So now me myself, I'm fortunate enough to not really have to make that decision, like, oh, do I want bacon or do I want feminine care products? But that's some real stuff. Baby care products are going up. Diapers are going up. Do I need diapers for myself or for my baby? Do I get these incontinent package for grandma because I'm taking care of her now too? All of these things are rising, and this is something that we should address, that we should be talking about, especially when you have states like Texas that's trying to get rid of abortion, and then the price of baby care items are going up. So you want me to keep the baby that I already can't afford to have, and I can't pay for the feminine care products that I need. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't. This is ridiculous. We need to have a larger conversation as a country about our priorities and about our value systems. This is really unfortunate. I'm hoping that we'll come together more as a country for these items that are costing too much. I have seen a lot of community refrigerators popping up, a lot of parkside pantries showing up to help feed and clothe people in our communities. But we also might want to start looking at how can we relieve some of this period poverty as well during a time of like this, and it's still in the middle of a pandemic. And that's something that people really aren't talking about, is that women still need feminine care products while we're still, things are on the ship. You know what I'm saying? People are still in need. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that to the table and up to the forefront. Let me know what you guys think about period poverty. Because with the price of everything still going up, those items are still going up as well. Gentlemen?
All right. We take a look at the numbers and we watch the changing in prices, the rising consumer price from November 2020 to November 2021. You see gas risen 58.1%. Used vehicles went up 31.4%. Hotels 25.5%. Meat, poultry, and fish 13.1%. Furniture and bedding 11.8%. New vehicles went up 11.1%. Domestic services 10.2%. Jewelry 6.7%. Electricity 6.5%. Food 6.1%. Apparel 5%. Milk alone 4.6%. Fruits and vegetables 4%. Across the board, we've seen everything that we use go up. Yet we have continued to watch the minimum wage stay stagnant, and nothing still has been passed yet.
Right.
How is it possible? All this money that the government put into the economy to boost the economy.
They want that
to get
PUA
the economy
money
right.
back. They want that PUA money back.
But they've been getting it already. They've been getting it already. All right, these people that are raising the prices, they've been getting money. Some of these companies were deemed essential businesses.
Right.
They got the most money. They stayed in business even as they got money.
Right.
And still continue to operate. And so by saying they're raising the price now because of what happened in the pandemic is flat out B. Look at this. It's this. You know what this is? This is the bull. What's this? That's all this is.
Right. And for those wondering, well, why is the price of beer going up? Also affecting the beer cost. Like we said, there's a aluminum shortage. So prices have increased 70% since May of 2020. So the price of a can has risen from around 10 to 15 cents per can, depending on the size, to around 25 to 30 cents. And now we will be paying that difference. Also, furniture and bedding, that will be going up 8.6%. So folks, it's everything. Unfortunately, is going up. They're saying that it may go down, after this shock of inflation. But I mean, we'll see.
I did what Tak is saying. We talked about the economy not too long ago, and there was an economist that was saying that all of this fake money that we're pumping into the U.S. economy is going to hinder us. And so the fake money was the PPP money, the child tax money, all that stuff was all the fake money. And it just seems like companies are trying to maximize their profits right now. So while people have a couple extra dollars, a couple more cushion, or whatever they deem it to be, they want some of that. And it's unfortunate that we just so happen to live in a capitalist society. Welcome to America.
Right. Let's get to these comments. Angela says 717. All right. Kate, good morning to you, Kate. Taquan says, not my beer. Rebecca says, every morning I sit my phone on the table and everyone in my house listens as they have breakfast or coffee or get ready for the day. You keep our whole family educated with what is happening to those who don't look like us. I appreciate it. And we appreciate that comment. To your family that's listening, how we sound.
Hi.
Jessica says they need to force utilities to compete and break this monopoly. Other countries do not operate like this. Indeed. Angela says that's sad. Where that PUA, exactly. LOL, WTF. We're drowning and getting sicker. Good point. Taquan says, oh no, they came for Dollar Tree. Yeah, Dollar Tree going up. They're going to have to call it $1.25.
Gotta get a catchy name now.
Right. James says Dollar Tree gonna have to change. Yep, literally. Jessica says it's about to be that cost, a little more. Shaking my head. $125 Dollar Tree and now Little Caesars. I'm going back to bed. Oh man. Jessica says tell him Lady L. And Rebecca says responding to femcare products. A lot of food pantries don't get enough donations of femcare baby care items. Angela says everything costs too much. They give you more assistance, but jack everything. Shaking my damn head. Where would we be without women?
Great point.
Great point. Jessica says it's just nuts. Think of how many people were in prison on crimes of survival, losing their freedoms and risking their lives to obtain the basic necessities. And here the country is raising it as the people get sicker and more desperate. And to that point, Jessica, I correlate that with the rise in gun violence that we're seeing. Because as people are getting more and more pressed, they're becoming more and more desperate.
How do you respond to desperation?
Exactly. Angela says, what happened to we the people? Taekwon says, I'm sure we the people don't want prices going up at all. We the people was always about them. Great point. Sabrina says, even when the pandemic comes to a close and things calm down, these prices will not go down, sadly. The powers that be will be enjoying the larger paychecks too much. Angela says, seriously, the struggle is real. And Candace, good morning to you, Candace. So, Sarge, thoughts on basically the turn up going up?
Turn up?
Well, the price of the turnip has increased.
This is why you got to buy land. You got to start farming, get some animal, get some steer. I've been watching Yellowstone. All right, so I'm ready to get some steer and some horses and live on the land, live my own land. You got to know what you're doing. So that's what I think we should see more people start turning to. They're starting to farm on your own. Starting to do more on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And starting to make them clothing last a little longer. Just saying. We got to hit the thrift stores up the way prices are going up.
Dig it.
Wednesdays, 50% off, Salvation Army.
Yo, and Community Aid, I think their day is on Wednesday as well.
Oh, we will have to talk to them.
Their big day. Yeah. So folks,
maybe they can sponsor my clothes or something.
Hey.
They have some nice ties.
Community Aid Thursday.
Get it.
All about it. Let's make it happen.
So
Sarge, can you take us to our next story, please?
So moving to our next story. Our next story comes out of Oregon. All right.
Treasures as well.
Treasures.
Thank you for that, because we do have to make a phone call to Treasures. Thank you for that.
Yeah, sorry. So we don't live in the day of just hotels anymore.
Right.
Airbnb is the thing. It's taking America by storm.
Yeah.
I myself am a big fan of Airbnbs. It's way more. I feel like it's way more privacy than hotels.
Yeah.
And you get more for your buck.
Yep.
All right. So, but there's discriminatory practices. There's racism in it, because racism is woven to the American fabric.
Yeah.
People don't want to believe it, but it is.
It is.
All right. So an Airbnb blocks Oregon hosts from seeing guest names in a push against racial bias. Airbnb rental hosts in the state of Oregon will no longer be able to see guest names before approving their bookings, according to a new plan announced by the company. The policy update is specific to Oregon for now and was born out of a lawsuit in which 3 black women from Portland, Oregon area alleged the rental site use of names and photographs allowed for racial discrimination, violating the state's public accommodation laws. The suit was settled in 2019 and started on the 31st of January. Hosts in Oregon will only see a guest's initials until their booking is confirmed, only after which their full name will be visible. The update will be in effect for at least 2 years, the company said. As part of our ongoing work, we will take any learnings from this process and use them to inform future efforts to fight bias, the company added. Complaints about discrimination on Airbnb aren't new. In 2015 and 2016, the hashtag Airbnb while black circulated, highlighting racism experienced by some of the platform's users. Many black users discussed being denied bookings until they changed their names online or used generic profile photos. Some even found that using photos of white individuals could game the system. Advocates called the Oregon policy change a good start, but cautioned that the adjustment shouldn't be heralded as the end of racism on Airbnb. A study conducted by Harvard's Business School researchers in 2016 affirmed these stories through data. They said after studying 6,400 Airbnb listings in 5 American cities, the study concluded that requests from guests with distinctively African American names are roughly 16% less likely to be accepted than identical guests with distinctively white names. So, in order to know if changes are meaningful, Mathis continued, he said companies should measure the outcomes and be transparent in their findings. In other words, make a gesture without numbers to back up its efficacy is not useful. I'm glad that Oregon has specific public accommodation laws that provide for this suit, he added. We're going to stop there. Let's touch on it. If you live in America, America is the United States. If you live in any of the states in the great America, you should have to abide by this law. I feel like it should be like this for racism across every board. But why isn't it?
Airbnb is the youngest company. It's one of the youngest companies, and they're doing it first.
Yeah. Why does it take this young company to do it?
Just saying.
I mean, this is like yo, this is how far we are in our racism as a country. That like a company has to set up its own parameters so that racism doesn't happen. It's like, y'all took this beautiful thing to help people out, and you made it into this ugly thing to black out black and brown people.
Still put racism in it.
Still put race and now we as a company need to single out this state because apparently this state is just doing it too much.
Oregon, what are y'all doing?
We talking about how progressive Oregon is with some of the things they're doing right.
Listen, we already know what happened on the Oregon Trail. And then we know how you terrorize all the black people out of your state.
And this is
now you ain't even allowed to vacation in Oregon.
This is yes.
But nope. Get out.
Just really think about as a naive black person, all right? You're a naive black person and you're in Oregon and you're like, I'm just gonna look me up some Airbnbs, me and my gal, we gonna go enjoy ourselves this weekend.
Go see some waterfalls.
Oh man, this one's booked. Oh, I got denied from this one. Oh, I got denied from this one. I don't know what's going on. It must be
Oregon sure is popular.
Well, let's keep on trying. And just to be under that under that guise of there's no racism in this. No, of course nobody is going to be racist with Airbnb. And this is why.
It's designed for equity. Everyone's supposed to have an opportunity through Airbnb.
So when next time, folks, you go up to somebody, especially a person of color, and you say, "Oh, well, all you talk about is race. All you worry about is race." That's because race is brought up to us every day, where we can't even book a room. You can't even book a room.
Race is places we haven't been yet.
Right.
Because we can't get there.
And then the thing is, racism will happen to you. Will just pop up. It'll happen to you in Target so fast.
Like a fly land. It's like a fly landed on you.
Yeah. Boop, racism. Boop, there it goes.
Racism. You have this whole world, and you want to show up right here,
right
in my face, to my door.
Right.
Doesn't hide.
Sabrina says, I'm sure it happens in other states and countries, but Oregon has a law in place that allowed for this to happen. And she says, will Airbnb implement this worldwide? I'm planning to go to Greece this year. And then Lisa says, if there's a will, there's a way, racism included. It's almost like batteries included.
Right.
Lady L.
I just wanted to say that Airbnb has been combating racial discrimination on their platform for since about like 2016?
Since
That's about 5 years.
Since its inception?
Yeah, so it's been about 5 years that Airbnb has been doing that. And one of the things that they've been doing is that you cannot see the persons that's trying to rent the property. You can't see their profile until after it's already booked. And I can really appreciate that because I remember at some point when you could see people, you would contact them and say, hey, I'm interested in it. And people would contact you back. And I remember there were a couple times when I would try to book like a beach property and they hit me up and say, oh, it's booked. Yep. Oh, that date's not available. Well, that doesn't make any sense because it's available right here, right now on Airbnb. Yep. And I'm hitting you up and now you're telling me that it's not. You know, so there's that. And I would say for me, to try to combat this, and I don't know if any of you guys done this, but to try to combat the discriminatory practices on just sites in general, I use a nice, wholesome family photo. So that at least you, in your mind, it's like, oh, it's a little black family. So at least you know it's not black people turning up and think it's a black family, right?
But even think about the racism in that. Like you have to present yourself as a safe black person.
It can't just be you smiling in the club.
Right.
Right, because my photo used to be a picture of me and my KO Wives group, but I was just like in the photo, but I had like a big afro puff and everything, and I was like, we gonna switch this out.
And that picture right there, and this is what I'm talking about, that KOY's picture, that's a picture of college-educated women. Everybody got a degree in that picture. Everybody's married in that picture. Like, that's a picture of woman of substance. And think about that. You didn't have that one up. Because
you took that one down.
Right. Like just the insidiousness of racism. That's actually, and also that's a multicultural picture as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I used to always use a picture of me in uniform.
See?
Always. But now I feel like now the older I get, the more I'm like, I'm unapologetically me.
Dig it.
You know, so like the older you get, I don't know, the more comfortable, the more less, I don't know, not less, but the more we become, we know what's going on.
Right.
You know, so like, I know if you're doing something racist. I'm gonna call you out on it.
Right.
All in your face.
It's just, it's weird, man. I mean, it's not weird because we do live in a country where laws have to be passed so that you don't get discriminated against for the material that grows from the top of your crown. You know what I mean? Like you can lose a job because how your DNA chooses your hair to grow from your scalp, and we have rules in place to stop that from happening in this country. That's how far off we are. That is how far off we are.
Just because we have rules doesn't mean they're enforced, though. We pick and choose what we want to enforce.
True. So, Airbnb, shout out to Airbnb. You know, this is one of those things that, you know, started off great. Americans, you know, we just found a way to F it up. What? Really did. Found a way to F it up.
You know what, though? I'm glad that Airbnb is here. And you know what? I actually appreciated their earlier commercials when it would be like, don't just visit, live there. And be a part of the community and staying at a home where you can go and talk to them and say, what are some local hot spots and what's this and how about that? Like the idea of Airbnb was so much more advanced and innovative, I think, than a hotel.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're really like with people who are in the community who can tell you some things that you can go to a front desk at a hotel and say, hey, what's going on? And then people be like, I don't know. I don't go outside. I don't. And it's just like, well, then what good are you? But with Airbnb, and we've even stayed at an Airbnb where the host was at the house with us.
Oh, that was so weird. Oh, I hated it.
Oh,
but
shared
yeah, I love that. I love the concept and idea of Airbnb. It's a great alternative to like doing like a vacation property rental, and working with a real estate company, or even just doing like a typical hotel, which I think are so overpriced. And you can have a full kitchen at an Airbnb.
Right. Gary, good morning, Gary. Gary says, good morning. I I guess there's not much of a market in Oregon for black porn Airbnb videos.
Oh, there's always a market, Gary. You just haven't found it yet.
Yo, I always wait for that first comment, Gary. I always do, yo. It's always a classic. Thank goodness.
He says,
for Gary, boy.
I don't do Airbnb because I always think that there are hidden cameras. Gary, me too. But I think the opposite. I think one day I'm going to see myself scrolling down Pornhub. Like, oh, that's me.
This looks like us in Oregon.
What were we doing?
Oh.
remember Oregon Trail? Remember? Yeah.
But yes, folks. Yes. Shout out to Airbnb. I'm looking at more major institutions, more so the tech field. That is going to be doing the same thing. Doing the same thing. Like I would love to see other tech agencies do the same thing and have I'll call it racial sensitive stuff like this. Because they know what country they live in. Like before this, for Airbnb, a couple years ago, I would have my white friends book for me because we knew what it was. Unfortunately, it's the unfortunate. It's the we're fortunate for knowing, but it's unfortunate that it happens.
Yep. We have a comment. James Baker says, "Why don't we, as a community, going together with others to create our own?" I mean, that'd be great. It'd be great to get to that point, to be able to work with people. But the hardest thing people do is it's hard to trust people. You know, and if you can find people that you can trust, go for it. You know, be willing to take that step and achieve that.
Right. So, folks, let's get to our next story. But before we do have our prestigious guest with us.
Oh, pinkies up!
Yes, pinkies up. 1, 2. Welcome to the show,
ladies and gentlemen.
Put your hands together,
boys and girls.
Show your love.
We need a
4.
We will rock you.
Hey. Ms. Venus Ricks.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
What's up?
Hello. I don't know if I'm imagining everyone can see me. I can't see myself. So I'm going to have to trust that I don't look a mess over here.
Oh, you good, girl. Work it.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you.
Yes.
So
you seem at a loss for words, which is unusual for you.
That is rare for moi.
Right?
But as I warm up, we know.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Somebody put in the comments this morning when we told them that you were going to be our guest this morning, they was like, "We love Venus."
Ooh, that's pressure. But thank you. I am the goddess of love and beauty. So
look, and our Instagram is popping. All these hearts are floating up. Look, people love you.
Yes, and I love the people.
Yes. So like we tell everybody, please feel free to join in on the conversation, and then in about a half an hour, around like 9:15, we'll switch gears here, and we'll get into everything. Ms. Ricks.
Okay.
And
you have to speak up too, Mama said.
My mother said that?
Your mama said
she said, speak up, daughter.
Mommy. I knew I shouldn't have tagged her.
She said, daughter. She is.
Listen.
Right.
And look, daughter,
she's the brand manager. She is the brand manager.
Oh,
she's
man.
The original brand ambassador.
Yo. She's calling all the saints right now. My baby's on TV.
And all the saints out there that are watching, please share the show.
Right.
Share the stream.
Right. Make
like,
sure.
follow.
Yes.
Thank you, Mama.
Sammy says, love Venus. Jessica says, you look amazing. Get comfy and show them who's at the table, lady. Hey. And then Gary says, bed and breakfast used to be the in thing until the polyadic community killed that squash. then smashed it.
Gary, you are so...
Gary is on.
Smart.
Gary.
Hey, we are not...
He's from Florida.
Yeah.
He's from Florida. Hashtag Florida man.
Well, look, we got a comment over on IG. Dizzy94 says, my cousin, my idol.
There we go. So then let's start flexing these education muscles. Lady L, can you take us to our next story, please?
Yes, I'm going to try my best to. This next story comes out of Chi-Town. Local governments in Illinois cannot enter into a new federal agreement allowing jails to house immigrant detainees. It must end old ones in 2022. Yay! Isn't that exciting? I'm going to repeat that for you. It might have gone over some of your heads.
Right.
Local governments in Illinois cannot enter into new federal agreements allowing jails to house immigrant detainees. And it must end old ones in 2022. And that comes under a new law signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker. I'm sure I butchered that. Other states, including Maryland and New Jersey, have enacted similar laws. 3 Illinois counties, which federal agreements face January 1st deadline to end contracts, while ones in downstate Illinois completed last year. 2 others are involved in a federal lawsuit challenging the law. The case was dismissed last month, but a federal judge on Thursday granted an extension while an appeal is considered. Authorities in McHenry and Kankakee counties now have until January 13th. Immigrants' rights activists have celebrated the law for months, saying incarcerating people awaiting immigration procedures is inhumane and costly. But others, including authorities in McHenry and Kankakee counties, argue they'll lose revenue, and ending contracts creates new complications, such as moving detainees away from family. Which is crazy to me because if you're locking people up, they are still away from their family. So I don't understand that point. So let's talk about this a little bit more. So the governor in Illinois has just passed a recent law where you cannot hold people while they're waiting for their immigration status to go through or those processes to be handled. You can't lock them up while they're waiting. That sounds pretty fair, plain and simple. And I don't even understand why that was a law anyway. Like, you're an immigrant, you're here in our country, maybe you're here illegally. Our best thing to do with you is to lock you up. Since when did prisons become our solutions? Because they haven't solved anything. I mean, unless y'all know something that I don't. No. Let's talk some more about this.
Well,
yes.
Well, I was going to say prisons don't solve anything. That's why they don't send folks like Brock Turner there and Kyle Rittenhouse. Because the judge knows, like, oh, well, you know, they're not going to get rehabilitated in there, so why send them in there? You know, it's for black guys. Go on ahead, Lady L.
Well, in far southern Illinois, Pulaski County Detention Center cleared out immigration detainees during their Labor Day weekend. Most of the roughly 50 detainees were transferred to either 2 other Illinois facilities or to Kansas. Wow. Initially, 3 were released, but more followed in the coming days during a process in which detainees were allowed to submit evidence on their cases. 15 total detainees were released. And this is crazy. So this was an immigrant from Honduras who did an interview and says, I was very happy. I was even crying. I felt like this was a miracle. He actually declined to give his last name. He was from Honduras, pending his immigration case. The father of 4 said he left Honduras to escape gang violence. He was detained for about a month after police found him asleep in a parked car after he had been drinking. He was turned over to immigration authorities. After his release from the Pulaski detention facility during Labor Day weekend, he was reunited with his family in Indiana. So I'm glad that this gentleman from Honduras was able to, you know, get free and make it home and be with his family. However, this is not the case across the board for immigration detainees housed in Illinois. McHenry, which also is another detention facility, it houses about 65 detainees, had planned to notify ICE on January 1st that it would wind down its month-to-month contract and transfer or release detainees within 30 days or by January's end. After the stay, McHenry County officials said they plan to do so after the extension, which means detainees would be released or transferred next month. The contracts bring in roughly $10 million annually. It's a significant source of money and jobs for northern Illinois counties, and even the Wisconsin border. And it roughly brings in $200 million to the annual budget. The county jail has housed immigration detainees since 2003. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot. I mean, I'm glad that I didn't read anything that people are being physically harmed or abused.
Being kidnapped.
Yeah, that part. I mean, is it considered kidnapping because it's the government, though, right? It's the government. Aren't they allowed to do that?
Yeah.
It's kidnapping.
Yeah, and then there's similar situations like that in Maryland and New Jersey as well. So for the folks that think that, oh well, this is a Midwest thing, it's right over here in the tri-state area
There's
as
one of
well.
those prisons in York as well. There's
Yeah.
one that detains international immigrants, stuff like that too.
And I mean, there's ICE right at Amtrak in Lancaster. Like they post up there waiting for people.
Coming out with the little mixed cocker spaniel, cockerdoodle.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of dog it is. I'm just saying.
well,
their presence, the way they try to do a presence patrol. They're trying to be real intimidating.
Yes.
Now, put yourself as an American. Imagine being descitized. Can I say that?
Is that a word? It's a word now.
I'm making it up.
It's a
Descitized.
word now.
All right, imagine being descitized, where you can no longer be here in America.
Right.
Arbitrarily, right?
Yeah.
Like
You're just kicked out. You kicked out the country. You got to leave. Or because you feel threatened, you feel like everything in your neighborhood, you feel like your country is against you. All right, so you try to leave. Go to another country. You get to that country. As soon as you get there, they arrest you.
Right.
They go, oh, you want to be a citizen here? All right, well, you sit here in jail. We're going to take your kids and put them here.
Right. And we may lose track of them, but that's not our fault.
Listen, if we send you home, we'll find a way to get your kids to somebody. Not sure who, but to somebody.
That may or may not know who you are and know your location, but, at least your kid is going to be somewhere.
Like if you work in the system, if you apply for any benefits, you know how exhausting it can be. You know how people can get lost in the system, paperwork consistently. So can you imagine your kid being put into this?
Right.
You imagine you being put into this and expecting to become a citizen,
right.
Hoping, well, at least I left that lifestyle I was living.
Imagine the quality of paperwork you're getting. Like the person doing that job probably doesn't care. They're doing that job because they want to get people out of the country. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So the way they're doing the paperwork is clearly subpar. And it's going to be evident. So you probably can't read it, and the name they can't spell. You know what I mean? So actually being able to connect these people is at some point for some of these families impossible.
Right. And if anybody wants any example of how these centers are being ran, I would say look at your county assistance office and look at how that's being ran, and you can assume how immigration is being ran too.
That's pretty.
Well, I'm concerned because so some of the counties in Illinois are fighting back. They are trying to appeal because they are afraid of the loss of revenue. And my thing is, how is your county running that you're making money from a detention center?
The detention of immigrants.
Right, like how are you
model.
Exactly.
Right.
How are you making money off of people who don't have any money? How does this work?
That means that was their business model since the inception of
the
that
program,
city being in existence.
How are you losing anywhere from $10 million to $200 million? in lost revenue from closing an immigration detention facility? That doesn't make any sense.
What are they doing? What are they doing?
Is my mic on?
Yes.
Thank
please,
you. Thank
please.
you. So I just want to go back to a base, right? And think about this in the sense of what has been constructed and built. And so we're asking questions about things that don't make sense because they really don't make sense when you're making people's bodies into policy or practice. So a lot of my work, people think diversity, equity, and inclusion work is simply dismantling racism. That is part of it. DEI is about structures, about culture, about organizations, and how we're functioning and how we're allowing our implicit biases to navigate how we do our work every single day. And I happen to work for the government, the state government, and we are public servants to the common good. That might have been lost for a lot of humans. And we've forgotten that humanity is what we're supposed to be centering. And so when we're thinking about these policies, we're calling it immigrant, we're calling it illegal, right? We're not calling it international migration. Why are folks coming to America? Why are folks coming to this state? Why are folks coming to other states? And instead of us moving away from making it about dollars and cents, and more so about people's lives, right? Equity and inclusion is about where's the disparity and disproportion in what we're doing. Because equality is not where we are. It wasn't where we ever were, but we needed something to get somewhere. And so a lot of this stuff is related to equity in a global lens, not just an American lens. America just has a very interesting way of handling these issues. That's what I can say.
Egotistical way.
Arrogant, right.
My word, interesting.
Dig it. Neville says, she came with the smoke this morning. And then Albertine says, show them what you got. Looking great. All right. So, Lady Al, can you add some commentary to this, please?
Just that we continue to see this over and over again. This story actually just sounds like what we seen a couple months ago with Haiti and those immigrants trying to, flee the country, or they were even some of them were even coming from South America and had migrated north. But even there was another gentleman from Benin. He had overstayed from a visa back in 2013. He was in the process of applying for a green card, but while pleading guilty at a hearing related to a 2015 financial crime, immigration agents took him into custody, and he was detained for months as well. However, he just so happened to find an advocate who actually reunited him with his family in Indianapolis. So actually, we're also seeing a need for, and think about this in terms of industry. There are jobs in immigration reform here in America. There are jobs for immigration advocacy here in America. So definitely, if you love your neighbor, and you want to see America be a better country, definitely think about some of these advocacy groups and working with them like CASA and some of these other agencies to help build and expand on immigration reform and helping our neighbors.
Right. Giving people stuff to do.
I do want to say, though, I do think it is good that they can't pass new laws without ending these old laws. Think about all the new laws that we got. And think about all the old laws that are just still sitting there.
Right.
We have to do away with these laws because at some point in time, someone's going to go, ah. But right here, it says it right here in the law.
Right.
You have to go to jail now. So we have to do away with the old laws. And like I said it before, say it again, just like we got to rewrite the Constitution.
Do we have to do away with them, or do we need to rewrite or revisit?
The ones, like we have laws that we created whole new laws for to cover. Mm-hmm. So then we get further and further away from what the original law was.
Then we even got judges making up laws.
True.
Well, it's about accountability, right? So we can have laws, and really as everyday citizens or everyday residents of a state or a country, are we doing our due diligence to know what these folks are doing, or are we just saying, well, that's a decision they made and I have no control or power over that, right? Where's your agency and how are you using that? Going back to what I'm saying about being public servants, if we know this state was founded on the common good, we know there's some intricacies of that we can kind of talk about that may not be relevant or needed today, but what do we talk about? What does the common good look like in today's Pennsylvania? tomorrow's Pennsylvania, not yesterday's Pennsylvania, right? And so how do we make sure that the common good is embracing and including all of those that are living in this state and living in this country in whatever intersections of their identities that they show up in, right? But we have power. We give up a lot also as individuals. So just because I'm in this role doesn't mean I don't have a lived experience and a life before I got here, right? This is a title, this is a position, this is a platform. I make room for other people. Coming to a show like this or talking with other people is making room, understanding what lives are living. But if we are just allowing things to happen to us, how can we hold our legislators, how do we hold people in my role accountable to that public servitude, that common good that you're promised?
James says, great topics as always. Keep up the great work, TCP. Got to get to work. Stay blessed. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for that, James. Ray says she on camera today and not going at Tide today. LOL. Says that he's just catching up. Mary Gaddis says, begs the question of why Lancaster County is proposing to double the number of beds they have now for the new prison. That's a good point. Money. Jessica says, ICE came to the county and forced my mom to obtain my birth certificate and take it in the jail to York to prove my citizenship. Shaking my head, they tried to deport the kid like I wasn't born in LGH. Gwen Rick says, or any Pennsylvania. And Sabrina says, need a place to put the homeless when people get priced out of homes due to gentrification. Got to clean up the streets for the $1 million condo owners downtown. Talking to Mary Gaddis about doubling the beds in the prison. And then Gary says, no, we have judges creating policies. Policy is not law. Folks, we are going to switch gears here. Bring up our fourth story of today. Want to really get that out the way before we continue our conversation with Dr. Bishop Ritz. Before we do that, Sarge, can you hit us with the promo?
Yes, I can hit you with the promo. Listen here, everybody out there in the world. Hey, what are you guys doing this Friday? If you ain't doing nothing much, come on down to Crispus Attics. We're going to be having our vaccine soiree?
Vaccine soiree, vaccine music festival.
Booster soiree, music fest.
Lituation.
It's going to be fun. We're going to be there. We're going to be there. Tier's going to be there Friday night too as well, right?
Yes.
So it's going to be a good time. Come out if you haven't been vaccinated or if you need your booster.
Yes.
All right.
Or if you need your flu shot.
Yeah, if your kids need it as well. 12 to 15-year-olds.
Yes.
Boosters approved for them as well now.
Yes.
So listen, come on out. We have to.
Yeah. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Crispus Attucks Community Center. And also, if you are coming forward to get boosted or coming to get vaccinated, come for the music. If you're not going to come for that, guess what? We got Boost Mobile coming, and Boost Mobile will be giving away free tablets. So come on, get your tablet. Come on, get your tablet.
Come on, get your tablet.
I got to study the script better, guys. I'm sorry. There is no script. It's all here. All right.
As the resident, DJ, if y'all don't know, Tyrion Mack, his music is phenomenal, first of all, and it's all kid-friendly. He makes his music with the intention of having his son be able to not only listen to it, but sing it in his house. So if you're really looking for something to do, you're looking for some new music for your kids, show up, show Tyrion some love, because he really makes his music with great intention, and it's high quality, nice turn-up music for kids. I really, really encourage you to bring your kids out. If you're not going to get them vaccinated, at least put them on to something that they're going to love from their city.
Sabrina says, got to play Soldier this weekend. Wish I could come. Sabrina, you're in luck because this won't be the first Friday that we're doing it. This is actually the first Friday we're doing it, and then we'll be doing it the next 6 Fridays after that. So if you can't make it this Friday, you can make it the Friday after next, after next, so forth and so on. So let's get to our final story of today before we get to our in-studio guest. So a study finds that flood risks are rising across Pennsylvania. This comes from stateimpact.org, and it says, most communities across Pennsylvania will likely face higher flood risks by the end of the century due to climate change, according to research from Penn State. The state's latest climate impacts assessment expects Pennsylvania to face more extreme rainfall and flooding by 2050 because of climate change. But a building of areas flood risk and the need for insurance is determined by looking at past events. The Penn State paper published in the Journal of Hydrometeorology combines historical flood information with climate models to estimate future risks. The team found that most cities and boroughs in the state are projected to face higher flood risks by the year 2099. It also found the chance of severe flooding is relatively higher in smaller cities and boroughs compared to the state's largest cities. Places that today have the highest risk of flooding, those same places seem to be the ones that are at the most risk 50 to 100 years from now. For this study, researchers looked at floods in terms of hazards, which refers to the size and probability of a flood event, and exposure, which accounts for how many people would be impacted and the cost of the damage. The top 3 cities with the highest projected flood hazards are Lock Haven, Williamsport, and Sunbury, all situated along the West Branch Susquehanna River. The study notes National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration data shows those cities have all had substantial number of flooding in the past. The study also found places like Warren, Bradford, Wilkes-Barre, Jonestown, York, and Connellsville also face some of the highest risks with more than 50% projected flood hazards and exposures. So, over time, communities, perhaps with some state guidance and support, can try to shift people and important assets out of the most vulnerable places. And that is from David Domzak of Carnegie Mellon University. The study notes some uncertainties. Global climate models used in the study can account for all the factors that may influence future flooding, like the failing of levees and regular construction. So I when I was working for CBS 21, this was what, 2009, 2010, Lady L. It was the summer of 2010. It just seemed like there was just downpour after downpour after downpour after downpour after downpour, and that river in Harrisburg just seemed like it always flooded. And the meteorologists were saying then that it's bad and it's going to get worse. And that was 12 years ago. And then now you add on the construction that happened 12 years ago, because some of those are natural barriers.
I was going to say.
You remove those natural barriers, add on some of the faulty piping.
Right, but then even over time with those natural barriers, it gets eroded away,
Yes.
based on the increase of rainfall and climate.
Right,
so.
right, and you may have an instance where you have 2 natural barriers. Mm-hmm. You remove that first natural barrier, now all that runoff is coming straight into that other natural barrier, and because all that runoff, it's degrading that,
right, eroding it away,
and that's how you end up.
Things worse and worse faster.
Right.
Sheesh.
That's how you end up with this situation. We're doing it to
smart.
ourselves.
We think we're smart.
A little bit, but like we are doing this to ourselves. Jeez. And what we're finding out here, and it's crazy because we just saw a story that I did yesterday of this. The insurance company and companies, especially in Harrisburg, they're not covering this. This isn't covered, and people are paying out of pocket to repair their homes, Lady L.
Right. I was going to say, and we kind of talked about this the other day, right before New Year's. But even with like Hurricane Ida, like some of these things, these natural disasters are occurring, and they're not being mitigated quickly. Like there are still homes that don't have roofs, and this happened months ago. And so when you live in these flood-prone areas or areas that are prone to other natural disasters, you run the risk of just losing your property because guess what? An act from God isn't always covered in your insurance policy. You're not sure about what that is? Call your insurance provider today and ask them. Ask them. Ask them if a flood is going to be covered. Ask them, because that might, depending on what happens, they might just say, oh, it's an act of God, and there's nothing we can do about that. And that's legit. But also, I just wanted to share with you all, I remember reading some stories some time ago about building houses along like coastlines, rivers, and things of that sort. So when the idea of originally building those houses was that people weren't going to stay there. Back to Tok's point about humans thinking that they're always smart, they just assumed that they would build these houses and people wouldn't want to stay there indefinitely because they knew that hurricanes and the coastline and the dangers, nobody would want to actually like live there indefinitely. And now we see, hundreds of years later, some of the hot ticket properties are in beach towns, waterfront, and no one cares about the hurricane or flooding or anything like that, right? So it's just something to think about. We do continue to do it to ourselves. However, just be mindful when you are buying your home or getting a property, just make sure that your insurance is going to be covered. And check and see what's happening in that area. Right. Is it prone to flooding or wildfires or what have you? Just see what naturally occurs in the community. That's something to think about, because even when we lived in Salisbury, Maryland, flooding wasn't, we kind of thought it might be a thing, but child, when it really rained and we were like in it, we were like, oh snap, like no, this is like real, like flooding, this stuff is up to our knees and it's only been raining for 20 minutes. Like, that's something completely different than it's been raining for 5 hours and it's nothing.
I remember the video you guys took from your window with the shark was swimming in the street.
Yo, the Quiznos never opened back up.
Oh, yeah, the Quiznos never did open back up. Folks.
I do want to add something to that too. You know, so if any of you guys, like, climate change is real. Over the past 50 years, the United States has seen such a huge change. So if you're thinking about moving anywhere, I'm going to tell you about the top 10 cities that are going to be disappearing due to climate change. Chesapeake, Virginia; Tampa, Florida; Jersey City, New Jersey. Right, Jersey City. Boston, Hampton, Virginia.
What?
Virginia Beach, Virginia. Total population in 100-year flood zones should be 57,994.
Oh, man.
Virginia
Look,
Beach
they
just
still
got
can't
on the
pay
list. They
look,
can't be.
How long do we have before Virginia Beach?
Virginia Beach.
Hold on. Virginia Beach was just on the list for like
Virginia
top
Beach.
places for black people to live.
Because
Virginia
my aunt
Beach.
and uncle live there, and I go
So
and visit
within
them.
the next century, these towns are going to be disappearing due to
like to.
climate change. Cape Coral, Florida, and St. Petersburg.
Man.
Oh, not St. Pete. St. Pete's one of my favorite places.
Yeah, St. Petersburg, Florida. Yep.
Man.
And
So-
I have a friend from there, and I don't want that to go anywhere. So, you know,
Well-
You didn't say Manhattan.
No.
New York. That's not going.
why would you do that? Who would get rid of New York?
From
Anything
like
Yo, that's
the
crazy.
water, the rising water, and climate change.
Well, they did
Why would
say
anybody get rid of anything from New York?
Newark,
Boston.
I'm sorry, Newark, New Jersey's on there. Cambridge as well. Jacksonville, Florida.
I don't like
Savannah,
Jersey
Georgia.
City being on there. Jersey City just got their first black
Are
lady
these all
police
like,
chief who's not
Yeah,
even
no,
a
look.
all connected bodies of water, right?
Stanford, Connecticut, Chesapeake. Yeah.
I could see Stanford. I remember, that looked like it's about to be in the water. I used to wonder about that.
so. Folks, we are going to put a pin in it right there for our news stories. I'm going to switch gears here, but before we do, I want to let you know that TCP in the Morning is brought to you by Penny.com. Head on over to Penny.com right now to see how much you can save for your healthcare. You have until January 15th, with open enrollment still being open. Penny gets you covered. Open enrollment is here. Penny connects you with financial aid and helps you shop for, compare, and buy health insurance. Nearly everyone qualifies for savings because of the American Rescue Plan. On Penny.com, they have the savings calculator and their frequently asked questions. So, again, head on over to Penny.com right now. Get yourself some health care in this pandemic.
And this has been your Health Minute.
There you go.
New York City too. New York's all gone.
Excuse you? Sorry, I live in Pennsylvania and work for Pennsylvania. I don't know anything about New York.
So, folks, switching gears here. We do have our prestigious guest here with us today, and we are so looking forward to learning something and her learning us something today. Without further ado, folks, like we said, like we promised, Dr. Bishop, Venus Ricks, show your love one more time.
Yeah, let's go.
Thank you.
Venus, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. First question, can you tell us about your background work in DEI?
Yes, I sure can tell you about that work. So I initially, this is going to go back, I give you a little, if anybody knows me, I have stories. So I initially started this work well before it was even known as diversity, equity, and inclusion. My foray into this work was actually in college, working for the Office of Multicultural Affairs at Susquehanna University. And if you know anything about the 90s and predominantly white institutions, you kind of learned diversity, equity, inclusion as you were just learning your academics.
Wow.
Because, you had to make room for yourself because folks didn't necessarily know how to make room for you. Equality was the way, tolerance was the way. And if anyone knows me, I don't do tolerance speak, nor do I indulge in tolerance. Humans are not to be tolerated. And when you have systems that have put things on humans, we don't tolerate them. We make room for them to rectify and restore that. So that is what I've been doing since a young pup. And then what happened? Went through college. My senior year of college, I actually was the office manager for the office and ended up being kind of like the director a little bit.
Wow.
Just the nature, again, of things that happen. Adults in environments have their own struggles and things, and so you step in where you need to step in for those who need it, and that's a lot of this work. Equity inclusion is about disparity, as I said, and disproportion. Where do you fill gaps? Where do you provide room? I've been doing that since I was young. Then went to, actually, this is a good part of this story. I think it's important for people to hear. When I graduated in 2001, I couldn't find work in Pennsylvania that was actually sustainable to pay my school loans or do anything besides live in my mother's house or with another friend. And had I not have left the state, not sure where I'd be today. So I left in 2004 to move to Massachusetts, worked for Smith College for a while, then did my graduate work at University of Massachusetts, and much of my equity inclusion, my social justice, liberation work, anti-blackness, right? Not me having anti-blackness, but working through anti-blackness, all came from being a student there, working there. If you don't have the chance to be in environments where you don't have to apologize for who you are and walk in your world, walk in your body, whether you are black, whether you're white, whether you're gay, whether you're trans, finding an environment like that where you can love people, have compassion, and make room is really uplifting, is really empowering. I think that's why I came back into Pennsylvania and was able to do and be who I am and not be bogged down and killed as much as I might have been before in my spirit. So that's how I got here. Right before coming to the governor's office, I was doing higher education for a long time, and I decided that private stuff wasn't for me, and the public needed my work a little bit more. So I took the last 5 years, one, to heal, because I had some health issues. As I've shared with some folks in the room, you might not believe it by looking at me, but just 4 or 5 years ago, I was on food stamps myself, and in the welfare office because I needed medical benefits because I was very sick. I got a blood clot 12 years ago, and I thought I was a strong woman, strong black woman. You can do anything. So I left Massachusetts with no medical care after I healed, or thought I healed. And 5 years later, my body said, ha, 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 you're funny. So I found myself needing food stamps, found myself needing health benefits, and looking for work again in Pennsylvania after I returned. So for those of you that look at me and think, oh, that's someone who's bougie and that's someone who doesn't know my day-to-day, I may not know your day-to-day, but I know mine. I know what I witnessed when I looked at people who looked like me, and the only difference between us was class. The only difference was once I left there, I was going to jump back up because of my master's degree. Right? So what room can I make? And so that's how I got here today. The jobs I've had, humans who saw something in me and put me on. I applied for this job while I was recovering from abdominal surgery. And all of the stuff that I've been working through and learning about myself over the last 4 to 5 years is literally everything I'm using to do the work for the benefit of those in Pennsylvania that don't know. We're working on their benefit at the Capitol. That was a long way to get there.
No, that is fine because I mean that really ties in with the next question you already touched on.
You have to ask that.
Yeah. So what did you do prior to working in the governor's office, prior to this position right now? You touched on it a few times.
So higher education initially, doing diversity education for students, leadership development, doing organizational stuff around how do we make these spaces and these environments more conducive to the bodies that we are inviting into the space. And so I did that work for a number of years, and then I transitioned into doing work in the community. One, most recently was with Penn State, a professor at Penn State, the chair of the psychology department, is doing research around adolescence and how anxiety develops to have some interventions earlier for them. So I did that work, and then I also did work locally with the YWCA Lancaster on equity and inclusion and how to do some strategy and organizations, but then also community work. So liberation, how do you do this equity and anti-racism every day in the community? So that's what I was doing right before thinking, and my independent consulting. So I was thinking that was my work, the independent, doing the public, and then all of a sudden this job popped up, and I said, the government's not gonna wanna do it the way that I do it, but I'm gonna apply because if I don't apply, I'm saying no to myself. Someone else can't say no to me if I say something to myself.
Right.
So I applied, and I wanna say probably 3 weeks later, I was like, interesting. You all do want to do it this way. Okay. So trauma-informed, human-centered, intersectional, right? Looking at how poverty, not just race, right? Not just sexuality, not just gender. How is all of that impacting how we are navigating the world? And particularly the base of that being poverty, what people are earning. And then once you add those other pieces. So that's what I was doing. And now I'm here with you all. And now I'm learning as much as I can about the humans of Pennsylvania and the humans that work at the Commonwealth to make sure we're doing our best for those walking and breathing and trying to make it every day in the state.
So has in your years you've traveled, you've been to a lot of different universities, like a lot of different schools where you were a director, and through all that, has your race ever hindered anything?
I shouldn't have laughed.
It was the maniacal laugh, though. It was like, mwah.
So the interesting thing about that is I have the blessing of having family members who didn't allow me to believe the world was telling me something bad, right? Did I say that right? So I was never allowed to give power to the system. They didn't call it that, but. So yes, has race impacted me, but I didn't know until after.
Has it ever hindered you though? Has it ever stopped you from being able to do your job anywhere, or had made you relocate, or made you get out of the situation?
It made me sick. Racism made me sick. Racism, poverty made me sick. If you think about the basis of it, right? If I want to talk about the different things, right? It might be someone else's peripheral parents, their experiences, or grandparents, but it was the stress of being a black woman trying to make it, and the tropes around being a strong black woman, right? You should be able to, we internalize this system, right? And if you know anything about white supremacy, you know that white supremacy is about race. It's about white being supreme, right? Whiteness being supreme. It's about capitalism. It's about patriarchy, right? And we forget about that when we talk about it. And so when we're in these spaces that were constructed not to fit your body, right? These structures were not fit. Whether you go to college, whether you go to high school, K through 12, they're not built for black women's bodies, right? A poor black woman's body, just because I've transitioned class-wise doesn't mean I don't have a foundational piece. And a lot of us, right? And so I work out of the Office of Advocacy and Reform. And the reason why this work is so focused on trauma is because advocating and reforming, you need to know the foundations of people's lives, right? So we all have a number of adverse childhood experiences that we go through that we don't necessarily talk about or connect to. And that impacts our adult lives. And for me, that was forgotten about. And a lot of that had to do with racism. 1987, my parents moved from Brooklyn, New York to Sunbury, Pennsylvania. You know anything about Sunbury, Pennsylvania? I was probably the only one of a few little black girls. There were Puerto Rican girls, but there were black girls. There were no black girls. My mother was my example. So I had to go to my mother to talk about what it meant to be a black girl. And if my mother's context was the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, what is she necessarily able to share with me about 90s, right? You grew up in Brooklyn with other black people. I was in the middle of Sunbury, Pennsylvania, a smart black girl. Not just smart, intelligent and before my time. So had I not had white women, particularly, who were like, hey, so you think about all of that, and yes, race was always playing a part in that, but because I was always pushing against it, I didn't know it was beating me down until after.
For those of you who don't know Sunbury is a smaller town up in northern Pennsylvania above Harrisburg. It's between Harrisburg and Williamsport. So, yeah, but it is a small town. There's not a lot of black people, like you would think there would be, but there's not. Within an hour.
It's like an hour north of Harrisburg, and now it's definitely more visually diverse. But if you think about it, right, you can have visual, but mindset, right, environment, what you see, what people tell you about who you are, you start to take that in if you're not getting other reinforcement. So for me, the benefit of it was I could see, why is this happening when I don't what is going on? But I had another context, right? I had family members who, from a child, saying, this is what you're going to hear in the world. This is not true. You can do and be, and right? They're going to tell you constantly. The whiteness is going to tell you constantly you're not enough.
Right.
So then think about when that gets reinforced in school, in church, right? You're socialized to believe you're not enough. And then how do you start living that, even when you don't realize it?
I'm sure to some people in that area, you guys might have been the first black family in that area. Like to some people, you might have been the first black family they've met, and kids even. Because I know even for me, dealing with when you implant into a place like that, in northern Pennsylvania, you're dealing with people that all they know is what they've seen on TV, if they saw it, like, or the two black people they encounter with their entire life. That's all they know, So who did you talk to? Who did you get guidance like to get through that?
At that time, my mom, my dad. I only laugh because I often say that my parents, I think they were ahead of their time also. We had boundaries, but you could talk about things, you could come to them. And I think because of my dad also spent a large number of his life in prison. So I think his understanding about politics and the world and stuff was saying, I have to prepare my children.
So from then until going through your professional career, getting to where you're at now, them times where people tried to where race came into play, where people, they let you being a woman come into play. Who did you talk to? Like who became your rock?
My mother, definitely my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, other black women, right? When I would find other black women, I will also say not just black women. I love Puerto Rican grandmothers. I love Puerto Rican people. I love Caribbean people. And I say this because I actually love all types of people. Growing up in Sunbury, DEI has been my life. And I know people say that, and I often say, like, no one was born into the world doing diversity, equity, inclusion. So I don't mean that. What I mean is, in order for me to be successful and to have my human needs met, I had to not look at what people were presenting to me. I had to get to know them, so I had friends, right? So you being white and poor, I saw it, but I had to understand you as a human to connect. If I didn't, I wouldn't. So part of it was just being who I am and just saying, who are you? And you're nice, I want to talk to you. Also knowing that we walk the world differently. But it was my parents, it was church people, it was my friends who were in the neighborhood. We all had similar backgrounds and did the same things. Church, not religion, spirituality. So I want to be clear about that, because religion does a whole nother thing than having a spiritual practice and a connection with a higher being. Family, friends, right? The people that keep you grounded. Yes, do I read theory? And I actually have the blessing of having friends who are also the scholars who wrote the work and the theoretical stuff that I'm using. So I often forget that I know the people that are in the books that I use to do my work, and because they're just my friends, right? So I'm just like, ooh, I saw you on CNN today, but that's your friend, right? So you forget it sometimes because it becomes regular and normal to you, but definitely the people who have done their own self-awareness, who've done their liberation work, who I can ask questions to. What has life been like for you? Even doing this work as a 42-year-old, what is it like to be 55 still in the workplace? What is it like, right? Talking to people gets my work done. And it makes me a better human, and it makes me value life a bit more. I don't know if I got to your
No, that was a
question.
So I do have a question now. A part of some of the work that you do out of the Office of Advocacy and Reform, and you kind of touched on this. You talked about getting to know people just at the level of just being a person. And then you also mentioned like the ACEs. Do you utilize the ACEs in any of the work that you do within some of the sectors of the state? In the state house, do you use some ACEs, or what are some strategies or tactics that you use to get to know some of the people that are doing the work?
So let's separate it. So I'm not on the legislative side, right? So that's kind of, once we get to that part, that's like a partnership, understanding more about what they do so that our work is not counter to it, right? So we're not necessarily on the legislative side. What we do is make sure that we're internal and external. Our internal work is, how do we make sure that we are coming to a standard of 21st century leadership? Because 21st century leadership already has equity and inclusion infused in it. So that's one thing. How are employees making sure that they're coming up to that standard? And then the external part of that is, we need to understand what's happening with everyday humans in Pennsylvania so that when we're doing the work inside, we're not leading employees astray, right? You're always doing the work that is benefiting the outside. So just to be clear about what that is. And so some of the tactics related to ACEs. So the Office of Advocacy and Reform, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a HEAL PA initiative. And this is something that extends, right? It makes the work go further than just the Commonwealth. So we want to make sure, not we, but if you've heard of the Trauma-Informed PA Plan, is that Pennsylvania is really grappling with trauma. All of our human lives, right? Everyone is grappling. And so how do we make sure we are reaching all parts of the state and making sure that we're leading with people's trauma first, not the constructs we've put on them? How do we see what has happened to people versus what they've done to themselves? And so in doing that work, HEAL PA is a number of community folks, right? They're doing psychology, they're doing community action, they're doing poverty work, whatever it is. And so it's not just Commonwealth employees. So let's say that this office doesn't maybe last or something happens. There's always the work of HEAL PA to keep going. There's a Resilient PA website, right? So this is about ripple effect. How do we keep getting out there to people to understand you're grappling with things that you don't even know? A lot of this is that humans are walking around in this state and other places in dysregulated states that they think are normal. It's not normal how we've been navigating. We've been navigating in our minds and our bodies in a way that is no longer serving us. It's actually unhealthy and killing us. So we came to this, right? The pandemic happened, and there were things happening well before the pandemic. The pandemic just exacerbated it and showed what we've been ignoring for so long. So with initiatives like HEAL PA, you're able to heal people and let them see themselves, right? Not just see the system and how I have to participate. How do I see myself? How do I heal? How do I understand that I am valuable, I have worth, and that all of these things that come with that worth, like earning and housing and your health, right? Once we heal and clean that up, that will enhance the outcomes for human lives.
okay.
So I mean, I'll jump in because it seems like you're pretty entrenched in the work, and you continue to say you've been doing this work all your life, right? If you weren't doing this, this equitable work, what would you be doing?
Well, I know that this room. Do I have to stay serious? Y'all want me to stay serious because it's going to slide?
Absolutely.
You asked me what
No,
I'd be doing.
you watch this show every day.
Okay.
You comment.
So I know that you all talk about aliens.
We don't talk about. We believe.
I believe, and I may be just doing all of my philanthropy and finding aliens to chat with. Now,
Oh man,
Yeah, Venus.
You done opened up Pandora's
You know
box.
Venus?
my name is Venus. Come on now.
That's
And
it.
I was born in the 70s. Literally, I don't want to find aliens. Come on now.
You know?
So,
Space
if I
Force.
were, or writing under a pen name all my liberation stuff, but that's not really a fantasy. I probably will do that.
That's it.
But like writing, a friend said to me yesterday that no one has written, and someone might say something else and think I'm boasting too hard, but I'm going to say it because, you got to put things out there. So I don't know if you're familiar with Patricia Hills Collins. She wrote Black Feminist Thought. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I don't remember the date. I want to say 1990. Anyway, so I have to read it again for my PhD program. And I was excited about this because I'm a nerd. And I was like, ooh, interesting. And my friend said, no one has written that strong of a Black feminist book since then. And he said, hint, hint. So Venus may, at some point, write the new modern version of Black feminist thought, but it will not be called Black feminist thought because feminism doesn't include Black women.
So you'd either be an author or you'd work for NASA.
If you want to be simple about it. I just want galaxies and to write about it.
Well, you're getting some love. Deandra Michelle says, write it.
I'm going to do it.
Dr. Bishop, why is diversity so important? We hear that word so often now, diversity. Outside of popular culture telling us, it's important. Why is it really important?
Because it's going to sound real cliche and corny, but we're all different, right? If something is constructed, it's forcing you to fit something that is not you. And it doesn't make sense to do that, right? So diversity is important because you have to value and appreciate someone who shows up and doesn't experience the world like you. It's not an add-on. It just is, right? I woke up just because Whitney and I are both Black women doesn't mean that Whitney's the same as I am. Right? So getting to know Whitney helps me expand. I think there's things Whitney has already said to me this morning that I'm like, I'm going to leave here and be a better person. She's a Black woman, but we're not the same Black woman, right? We're all Black people in this room. We don't all have the same Black experience. Right? I said to a Black man the other day that I find it yes, Black women are very invisible. No one sees us until they have to. So when they have to see me, let me speak while the men over here do something else, because it's the violence, right? There's something, when I say to a Black man, speak up, it's a different thing than me, Black woman, with my curly hair and like not looking unassuming, right? Because people look at that, right? They look at how you present if you're threatening.
Right.
What do we need to be thinking about how we accept people or what we look at and make decisions about? But understanding those pieces will help us have more abundant life. It's efficient if we want to think about processes and how we get things done and productivity. The more minds and the different thoughts, not just
skin tone,
right?
Diversity of thought.
Yeah, not just skin tone, but the fact that I was raised low income, went to a private, predominantly white, rich college, then moved from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts and spent a lot of time in real global environments where people were from all over. If you've ever been to Boston, if you've ever been to Western Massachusetts, if you've ever been to LA or Oakland, like living in those places where there's so much vast difference, you don't even think about race, ethnicity. And actually, when you ask the question about race, I focus on ethnicity more than I do race. Race is the construct, right? It was created. Ethnicity is very real. How we develop around our artifacts, how we develop culture, how we connect language-wise, right? Being Black American is very much an ethnicity. Being Puerto Rican, ethnicity. Nigerian, ethnicity. African, Black, right? Those are the race constructs, the white, the Asian. But the ethnic pieces, we forget to give people their value in that. So how do you understand how people live? And that's why it's important. You were saying earlier, DJ, I was gonna call you Teddy Pendergrass. Oops.
She be killing me all the time on Facebook with the Teddy P references.
Oh shoot, I forgot my thought. Oh, so let's say you come to something. So we were talking about international migration. So the assumption is, if you are a person that is an international migrant, you've done something wrong. There's no thought about whether or not you came here, that you have your residency, or there's no understanding of who you are. There's assumption from looking at you that you don't belong, that there's something wrong with you, and now we have to treat you as such, versus how did you get here? Do you understand English, right? Is English your first language, or is this another language? It's a way to interact with people, not to judge how you interact with them, right? Me knowing if you speak Spanish is not to separate me. It's to say, oh, okay, I may need to find some resources because I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
It's not about how do I separate, how do I pull you in because you're also a human that just happens to speak language differently or think differently if you think about neurodiversity. So all of these things enhance how we live, how we work, how we provide resources to humans.
Right.
I have a question. So we look at we talked about what the Airbnb programs, well, what they did in Oregon. All right. Do you feel like there are enough companies that are making steps like that to make it diverse, to make sure that their business is being represented in a positive light and not being shut out for things like racial or ethnicity or ethnical differences?
I don't know that I can speak to if there are enough of them doing it. What I can speak to is I wonder how many of them are doing it more than just a performance. So numbers, quantitative, right? Quantity does not give us our equity. Because you can have as many numbers as you want, but if people's mindsets are still adhering to white supremacy culture, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, whether you're white, you still adhere to it because we internalize it. What do we internalize about what it means to be professional? What do we internalize about language and what language is acceptable to speak in the workplace? These are the things we have to think about. And when we don't make room for that and when we adhere to these things, it's not just about numbers, right? We have to think about, because I've said to people, I've had people that look like me battle me more than white folks about issues of race, about making room, about even when it comes to gender, right? Being a woman, there's plenty of things that happen where women are telling you, don't talk to that man like that. I've literally had people tell me. Wow. You must have not met Gwen Ricks. Ma, you listening? So it's that kind of stuff. Like, how are you built your own agency to be able to push back? And if you don't have diversity, you're not able to do that effectively.
So then, staying on that the diversity thought right there. What are some of the biggest threats to diversity thriving in Pennsylvania today?
Biggest threat, implicit bias that leads human behavior, right? Because again, when we know about, so let me explain it this way. The real of this is poverty and class. So when I say real, now don't hear me say that racism, sexism, homophobia is not real. They are very real and they have very real implications, but they were created for a purpose. Now, when you think about classism and socioeconomic class and poverty, those are real. Education, resources, how you live, right? How you have access to healthcare. And so when people don't have enough of those things, which we're grappling with as a state and a country, how are you going to be less sexist, racist, homophobic, all these other things? Because that's in your mind. Someone taught you at some point that this is how you survive in this society. So when you went to school, you learned here's how boys do things, here's how girls do things, here's what it means to be heterosexual. You didn't know you were taking it in. So when you went to school and your teacher learned from their teacher, from their teacher, from their college, and no one interrupts the socialization, it just keeps going. And what happens as the mindset keeps going, you start to believe you deserve to be poor and without and less and not have health and not have care. And then the pandemic hits. Right? And so all those people that thought because I look a certain way, I'm acceptable, I'm valued, are like, wait a minute, you're treating me like this now. Because now we realize we're all humans and we've all had a walk. And our class position has separated us more. And we lean on our color and the mindset things versus how do we make room for people to have more so they stop being less hateful.
Lady L.
We got a lot of comments going off on this IG saying, preach, come on, yes, sister. Got a couple claps, lots of hearts going off. And then someone also mentioned, yes, speak on how the feminist movement is not for black women.
It is not.
And I did have a question. I was curious to know about, is it difficult to do DEI work in the state? Like, do you feel as though how important is it?
It's
especially
challenging.
Where we're at right now, like I think Lancaster is so diverse, specifically for us right here in Lancaster County. Why is diversity so important?
Here's the thing about it. It's challenging because not because it's the state or it's challenging because it's government. And it's so long withstanding, right? And when we talk about this and like valuing what we know, right? We know the government to be what guides us. And no one's ever questioned it. It's like sacrilegious to question the government. And I'm not saying that we question the government. What I'm saying is it's okay to critically think and critically analyze. And so if we're talking about practices, if we're talking about how we're doing our work, it's okay to question and critically analyze our government. I'm part of that. And if those in the citizenry are not empowered or feel equipped to do that, then you step in and you say, okay, how do I step in and do that in their stead? because they don't know what they don't know until they know. And I always say you're only responsible when you know. When you know, now you got to move forward and do something different. But the challenging part is, again, mindset. Mindset, because people have really believed, and fear and mindset. Because really when people hold on to power so hard, it's because they're scared of something. And if you think about it, let's remove race, ethnicity. If you think about it right now in the workforce, because my job is workforce, there are 4 generations in the workforce. Boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Z, Zennials, what's my generation? I'm a Zennial. What's those people? The Boomers, the Gen Xers. I'm an X. I'm a Zennial.
Same with us.
We're Zennials.
Zennials, yep.
Millennials. Anyway, the point is, everyone learned how to do work differently, right? And then when you learn that work, you also learned how to participate in society. So think about who teaches you how to participate in society. And now we work in. So as a Commonwealth employee, I don't leave being a Commonwealth employee. I'm a resident of Pennsylvania. I go to work on behalf of Pennsylvanians, and then I come home and I'm still experiencing Pennsylvania. So that is a really challenging, right? To tell people who are both working on behalf of public servants and then also being someone who lives here to know, like, I'm experiencing with you, how do we do it together when folks want to hold power because that's what they know. It's not because they want to be malicious. You're doing what you know because what did boomers learn? What did boomers learn about work, right? You keep your head down, you don't argue, you don't question.
You work in that factory.
Your boss is the boss, and you do your work.
Do your work and go home.
And you go home.
Just be happy to keep your job.
And then Gen Xers were like, hey, we want to do a little bit more than just work. And then y'all come along, millennials.
Yeah, I remember there was a whole thing about millennials. There was a thing because about millennials moving from job to job.
Yeah.
And there was a whole big thing. News articles were coming out saying, oh, you're not going to have retirement. You're not going to have this. And millennials, we were just like, we're not going to have no retirement money anyway because you all mismanaged it.
Right.
So what are we doing? Anyway. Right. And I think that's when we all stepped up and was like, yeah, this is a rat race and it doesn't make sense and you're all playing a game.
And the Gen Xers were like, listen, y'all, that latchkey kid thing wasn't so bad. Y'all, they let us get a little room. Don't ruin it.
Right.
Yeah, and we were like, yeah, no nowhere.
Listen, you know what?
Because I had a sister who is slightly older than you, Venus, and so then she was a latchkey kid, and she didn't like it. So then when my mom had subsequent children, she made sure that those other kids were not latchkey kids.
Man, I love being a latchkey kid. Like I might pass it down. Because I like it so much.
Right. we came into it like, you know what? I don't like none of these jobs. I'm going to start my own business.
Straight up.
And ever since then, it's just
I don't know if we can handle it, though, because I think about
latchkey kids are
I think about the things, like, as a kid, I'm like, those 80s, those 70s and 80s parents, man, did y'all have anxiety? Like, did your nerves, what were your nerves like? Because I don't have my own children, but I have my nieces and my nephew, and they don't even live with me. I'm like, where are they? What time did they go to school? What time did they come back? On the bus? Like, so I'm like, I can't do none of this.
The generation that went to World War II, they were considered what? The greatest generation of our time, right? Our generation is that generation. Look at all the war we had, the war conflicts we had. Our generation was at war. Our generation came home. Our generation is still so they may have been the generation way back then, the best generation ever during their period of time. But as of right now, I feel we are that generation. I feel like we are. That's us. So.
Yeah.
Ms. Venus, before we go, I did have one more question, but also because it goes with some of the comments on IG. Are there shortcomings when it comes to DEI? And I asked that because we got a couple comments on IG. One from The Honey discussing to think of DEI in Philly with everything being racially segregated.
Yes.
And then they continue to say, I just think of nobody working properly in DEI in Philly. And so just with that viewer in mind, I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on, are there shortcomings when it comes to the work of DEI?
It is. There is a shortcoming. And here's the other part I'm going to go back to. It's how we're socialized. We want, and We are in the technological world where we want quick fixes. This is 400 years in the making and then some. That's just in America, right? We're not talking about global white supremacy and how colonization was global, right? So when you have someone who's moving from a country in Africa or moving from somewhere in Europe, we all, depending on where you're hailing from, colonization's in your spirit, it's in your body, it's in your central nervous system. Some of your question again, I'm sorry, Whitney.
Are there shortcomings when it comes to DEI?
Yes, because people want quick fixes, and you can't fix hundreds and hundreds of years in so short of a time, especially when your mindset is saying equality. It's because your mindset isn't making room for equity. Equity means you have to give up some things so someone else can have something. And when we as Americans have been socialized that individual, we haven't been socialized in Ubuntu, right? I am because we are. We're socialized in humanism. And humanism says that it's about all, but it's European and it's individual. And so what do we need to be doing as a society when we're talking about we are founded on certain principles? Who were those principles founded for? Who are we seeing in our visual, and what have you accepted? So the shortcomings are in our minds. We have to decide what we're willing to separate from, what are we holding that we don't need to hold anymore, and what are you willing to release so that you can have a better environment to work in, to live in, to play in, not just survive, but thrive, right? And those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. If you're not willing to contribute to what you want to thrive in, you cannot be upset when it doesn't work out.
Awesome, thank you. And Deandra says, tell the truth about humanism. Yes. IG is loving you. IG is loving you.
As the Saints would say, shame the devil. Tell the truth.
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
And on the Facebook side, Mama Ritz says, I'm listening. Just to answer that, Devani says we have to unlearn what we were taught out of fear and ignorance. Saquon says implicit bias. Love that. Devon says classism is everywhere. We were being boxed up to go into the barrel of crabs, but we shouldn't be there in the first place. Power is key for them, and they hoard the information. Great point. And then Gary says, this is not true for me. I moved here from Washington, D.C. I'm a boomer. And I can't believe how ass backwards this town is. I moved above the Mason-Dixon line. I can't believe this place.
You see what they did? They fooled you. They told you it's an invisible line, Gary.
Right.
Listen,
It doesn't actually exist. It only exists in the minds of black people.
Have you ever seen the sign? I'll take you to it.
No.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the imagination that things change.
Oh, it really doesn't.
Line, it's in your head.
If you want to be honest, I don't know. So here's the other thing I will say. Something that has been really, you asked me about who my influences or who I talk to, or definitely family, friends, the brilliant people that are in my life. When I'm telling you my friends are brilliant, so if I tell you to read something, they're people I know in my phone. The other part of that is I take in stuff that's not American. So meaning, like, what's the UK saying? What is Canada doing with equity? Not to say that America's bad, but when you're thinking about your mindset and who's doing it in a way that is successful and working, that is actually centering their humans. So that's what I look at, because it always gives me, because we can get bogged down with what's on the news. We can, especially now, I was a traveler, and I know that economically that's not everyone's ability. But it really actually helped me understand more about being an American outside of this context, what it means, what you can actually have, and what we were told we can have, and what we value, right? I remember being in the Dominican Republic and afraid that this is something very simple. I was like, the plane is going to leave us. They're moving too slow. Everything's in paper. When I tell you we were on time, I had my seat, got home, and everything was just do. No one was rushing. Everyone was relaxed. And I'm like, look at me, my stinking American self. Wanting to rush everything, be bossy, push people around, and everything happened the way it should have. We were on time, right? And I'm over here putting my American nonsense on their energy, right? It gives you a context for where you are. It also helps me in doing this work or just being a human here when I'm around different folks who are not from America. I'm like, I understand a little bit more about what that transition might feel like coming to the U.S. or being in this environment.
All right. So Dr. Bishop Ricks, we want to thank you.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that this will not be the last time. It was definitely one for the books. Folks, want to thank you for joining us on this Tuesday of TCP in the morning. It was a good morning. Hope you have a lot in your reserve to go on with that'll carry you through your day. Put an extra pep in your step. Put a little glide in your slide. So, on that note, Lady L, what you got for us?
What I got for you. Hey, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, listen, don't forget to support our Black Lady Doctors. Yes, it is going down. Christmas Addicts this Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. Grab the kids, grab your abuela, grab your grandmom and them. Come on down, get vaccinated, get boosted, and support local artistry. They're going to be performances live again this Friday, going down January 7th, hosted by our awesome Black Lady Doctors. Yes, patients are waiting. Meet us at Christmas Addicts Community Center this Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. We cannot wait. And not only that, if you have any young people interested in the field of medicine, go ahead and visit their website. Patients are waiting. They are rounding up kids right now for their next set of Pipeline to Dreams, a 12-week enrichment program getting high school juniors and seniors ready for the medical field. Over to the desk.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we've had the great Miss Venus Ricks in the building. And she came in and killed it, so let's give her a round of applause one more again. Now, I like to say this to everybody out there, to he, to him, to her, to she, to they, to them, to we, baby. I'm going to leave y'all with this. When God designed the plan for you, it wasn't dependent on you being perfect. Your mistakes are not a surprise to him. Life would be boring if you never messed up. And remember, wisdom is the ability to learn from change. So learn away and live your life, baby.
All right. Folks, on that note, want to thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We here, baby. We there, baby. We that, baby.
We everywhere, baby.
We everywhere. Again, you heard the promos. We'll see you mañana.
In the club. Oh.
Adios.
You know what they say in the...
This is Asad. This is your penny.com health minute. In part 2 of our healthcare terminology, we begin with the phrase out-of-pocket maximum, which is the most money in the form of deductibles, co-pays, and co-insurances you can pay each year, regardless of how much medical care you need. Do you need prescription medication? Well, penny.com has provided a convenient way for you to look at the plans you are considering to see how much your prescription could cost. Network is also a key term you will continuously see while navigating penny.com. Your network is compiled of healthcare providers and facilities your insurer has contracted with. Do you want to include your doctor in your plan? No worries. You can use Penny's provider directory to see if your provider is included in your plan. Sign up for healthcare coverage